Hello everybody, and welcome to the Wench Bench, where friends sit and talk about fabulous fictional females and how their stories have influenced us throughout our lives. My name is Alison.
And my name is Nick.
That's right. Today is another episode where Alison and Nick get to talk about another female character.
Scram, Fonda.
So today, Nick and I are going to be talking about a character named Judge Anderson.
Yes.
Here are some basics about this character. Judge Cassandra Anderson is a law enforcement officer and psychic in the 2000 AD and Judge Dredd comics, as well as her own title comic. She was first introduced in a Judge Dredd storyline titled Judge Death in 1980. As I mentioned, she has psychic powers, most notably telepathy and precognition. She's a smart, strong woman who is able to do what needs to be done in the line of duty, but she also questions things and tries to find solutions beyond force and violence. So, Nick, how did you come to learn about Judge Anderson as a character?
Well, back in the 90s, they did a Judge Dredd movie with Sylvester Stallone that tanked. That I love, but
it's great.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. It's not as good as Demolition Man, which is pretty much the same thing with Sylvester Stallone as well in the early 90s, but it'll do. Okay, it'll do, goddammit. Anyways, and I first found out about it because they did a video game about based on the movie. And I was like, oh boy, gee whiz, wouldn't it be awesome if there was a movie based on this? Because they used a picture of Stallone in the gear, but I didn't realize it was him because his face was covered.
Oh, okay.
Unlike the movie.
Yeah,
where he's running around without his helmet on all goddamn day, which is a hallmark of Judge Dredd. Anyways. And I just slowly got introduced to the comics over the years, and like as I rediscovered Judge Dredd a little bit later in my teens, I started really kind of reading more and more of the old comics, which started in the 70s. And eventually, I think when I first found out about Judge Anderson was when they put out like a toy line of the most popular 2000 AD characters. And they had one called Judge Anderson. And I hadn't heard about Judge Anderson by that point. I only knew of Judge Hershey, who was the female judge in the Judge Dredd movie, who was kind of Dredd's romantic interest in the movie. And
yeah.
Not at all faithful to the comics. Anyways. The movie was very not faithful to... very, very unfaithful to the comic. Anyways.
Still fun.
But when I saw this character called Judge Anderson, I actually thought it was like a Pam Anderson like ripoff. I thought it was a joke.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand. I was like, what the heck? And, because she was just super popular in that time. And, sure enough, oh no, wait, this character debuted back in the 80s, which I learned later. So yeah. Definitely not a Pam Anderson ripoff. Definitely a really cool character. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely super cool.
Yeah.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is Judge Anderson from the comics. So thanks to Nick owning all of them, I actually got to read the Judge Anderson comic line, and I really enjoyed it.
I own a shitload of Judge Dredd comics.
So many.
Yeah, like a shitload.
Just a large bookshelf full of Judge Dredd comics.
Oh, man. Boxes in the garage filled with tales of Judge Dredd. It's a lot!
It's a lot. So for those of you who don't know, the world of Judge Dredd is a dystopian future where everyone lives in mega cities and mega blocks.
Sucks.
It sucks. With all of the people packed together, the crime rates are astronomical. To counteract this, an agency known as the Justice Department oversees law officers known as judges, and they act as judge, jury, and executioner.
No, you gotta be like, I was gonna interrupt to be like, because they are judge, jury, and executioner. It was a lot edgier in the 70s, okay? Yeah, all right, now I'm a little played out. One man. Yeah, anyways.
I am the law.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
I'm not good at it.
Put 30 years of people ripping on my poor Judge Dredd with that. Okay? It's actually super cool in the comics when he says it.
Yes, but Sylvester Stallone has a way with words.
It's not even that bad when Stallone says it either in the movie. People are just assholes.
Yeah, it's honestly not that bad.
It's like when people do Shatner impressions. He doesn't actually say, ugh, but...
It's an impression of an impression, and then it just degrades.
Anyways.
Either way. Anderson is a prominent member of the Psi division of judges, meaning other psychics, and she is considered a valuable member of that division. Later in the comics, she is actually considered a veteran and is regarded highly by younger judges.
So we're not going to talk about the whole mutie thing yet, or we're going to talk about that later?
We can talk about the mutie thing.
Okay. Let's go back a little bit here. The point of Judge Dredd was that these British people who made the comic wanted to make it like a really violent comic book. And the editors were like, no, you can't have all this violence, all these criminals doing violent things. And the writers were like, well, what if they were cops doing violent things to criminals? And like, oh, that's perfect. So they made this like subversive, like ultra-fascist cop story where you're supposed to like hate cops. And it's filled with tons of doublethink hypocrisy. And one of them is that mutants are outlawed in the city. They're exiled to the
irradiated wastelands
known as the cursed earth. Yes. The shithole outside. Except when they're useful. So yes. Judge Anderson is a mutant technically, but because she has super helpful psychic powers, they're going to use her as a cop to bust people, even though it's illegal.
She also looks normal, which is also very important. Yeah. That whole X-Men version of...
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you're an acceptable mutant because you look like a normal person and can pass as human.
Exactly. But if you're ugly, get the hell out of here. You go outside.
So her and Judge Dredd often work together and are quite effective even though they have differing beliefs in regards to how to be a judge. So they both believe in the law and in what they're doing, but Anderson tends to have a bit more of a fluid, bendable idea of the law, whereas Dredd is very black and white.
Yeah, Anderson's not a fascist. Dredd is basically like a fascist totalitarian nightmare of a cop, right? Like he is, letter of the law all the way. Originally, Anderson was added to the cast to be kind of a lighthearted, happy-go-lucky youth character. She was kind of like Ahsoka from Star Wars Clone Wars, where she's kind of like, oh, Dredd, really? Like, not quite that bad.
Yeah.
But, she was there to add some lightheartedness to how much of a goddamn hard-ass Dredd is.
Yes.
Right? And, over time, that changed. But originally, she was, I would almost characterize it as sort of naive.
Yes.
Just very, like almost like a bubbly rookie.
Yeah, she believed in the law makes people safer, and I can help people, and I can change the world through doing this.
Yeah, exactly. She believes in doing better, whereas Dredd believes in enforcing the law.
Yes.
Right? She wants to help people. Dredd wants to crack skulls. Everybody's guilty of something, goddammit, and Dredd's gonna find it. Whereas, Anderson might let you off with a warning.
Yeah. Yeah, she's much more likely to look at the reasons why you were committing that crime and find sympathy and empathy for that. But
if you're speeding to get home to take a shit, Anderson would give you a warning, like, okay, go ahead. Dredd would wait for you to shit your pants and then give you a ticket for littering. And speeding. Like, honestly.
And probably public indecency.
Oh,
like, everything.
That's only if you pulled your pants off. If you left your pants on and shit down your leg. Yeah, just littering.
Yeah.
But yeah, indecent exposure for sure if you pulled your pants down and shit on the side of the road. Yeah. Maybe a sanitation violation as well. There's got to be one in there.
It's got to be somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's got to be, yeah.
As time goes on... Not sure what kind of segue I can put in there.
I don't think we've done a great job explaining the world of Judge Dredd. But I think that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
As time goes on, Anderson becomes more and more critical of the system and what is expected of judges, because they are expected to not have close personal relationships. They're expected to kind of keep at a distance.
Yeah, it's in the comic. It's kind of to keep the person to have no family, so no one can get to them. They are, they all wear helmets all the time, unlike the movie, because they are the faceless agent of the law. So they can't be corrupted. They don't have families that they're trying to do better for. They don't have families that can be held against them. But Anderson's not really. She doesn't really believe in that system.
No, she actually allows herself to build quite a few meaningful relationships to herself. She has friends, and she kind of experiences her feelings more, but she also
likes to fuck.
She does like to fuck, which is one of the many reasons I love her so much.
Dredd has literally arrested people who kissed him for assaulting an officer. Anderson, on the other hand, you can assault that ass.
Anderson has literally slept with the enemy.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I also love that she can get away with this is because she is so powerful.
Yeah, they need her.
And she is so important to the division and to the megacity that they have to keep her around. They can't just kick her out for breaking the rules because she's like, I'm psychic and good at my job and you need me.
Yeah, they've used her to interrogate people. They've used psychics to predict events. There's whole story arcs where they go on these giant... There's one called the Judge Child Quest where they kill a kid because he's going to bring down the downfall of the Justice Department. So yeah, they do terrible things, but they need psychics and they use them a lot in the world.
Yes, and what they actually do to many is they take these children who show psychic proclivities from their families early in life, just as they did with Judge Anderson. And they force them to participate in rigorous training to one day make them a part of the Psi Division.
It's good for the state.
It's good for the state.
Fucking fascists.
She ends up learning, after going through all of this and starting her career as a judge, she ends up learning that important and traumatic memories from her past had actually been blocked while she was in training. So they believed that this would make her a more effective judge. And when she realizes just how much they changed her against her will when she was younger, that's when it really started to make her second guess the system that she was working for.
Yeah, that's a big contrast between her and Dredd. Dredd's a clone of the greatest judge of all time. He is bred for that system, literally. Whereas Anderson, yeah, she had a family and stuff like that, so she is not a part of their normal, let's say, grooming process, their normal development process.
Yeah.
So, not surprisingly, they blocked all those memories from her mind, which distanced her from their system, their belief system. It created dissent in her.
It actually also contributed to her eventually leaving the Force. After a particularly bad experience on Mars, she abandons her post and her role within the division alongside a Sovblock judge named Orlok.
Oh, that guy is a piece of shit.
So the Soviet bloc.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have Russians anymore in the 2008 world. It's just the Soviet bloc.
It's just the Soviet bloc. So yeah, it helped her make that decision to leave. During her time away, she explored deep space colonies and then eventually decided to rejoin the Justice Department. She just needed to get away from everything and gain a little bit more perspective and kind of get away from the restrictive nature of the Justice Department.
It really is a tough thing to reconcile, right? The world they live in is pure hell. Like, the job they do is a necessary evil almost. It's not a righteous job. It has to be done, otherwise the world would be even more awful.
Yeah.
And so that's a hard thing to reconcile, especially if she's not a true believer.
Currently in the comic books, she is pushing 50, And due to the fact that she is a psychic, she cannot take these drugs that normally would allow judges to remain in active duty. So they're now at this kind of point in the comics where they've come to a time where it doesn't make sense for her to keep working. So I'm curious to see how that ends up playing out more.
Yeah.
And how they write themselves out of that.
The comic is called 2000 AD because it's supposed to be a futuristic comic book, and they never thought they'd live to see they never thought a comic would live to see the year 2000. And they talked about that when they hit the year 2000. Maybe we should call it 3000 AD. But one of the things they always did was they aged the characters in real time. And this has come up with characters like Dredd, you know, because, again, he started in the 70s, right? So, wait a minute. Like, you know, like, he should be a tired old man. And I think that was what the writers really wanted to do with Anderson, was have her grow and age and, you know, and change. And now it's kind of getting to that point where, like, yeah, like, maybe it's time for her to go away. I don't know. I really don't know. So
Yeah.
But it's something you don't see with comic characters, right? I mean, in all fairness, they had a character named Judge Giant, and then they killed him, and they just brought his son, and they called him Judge Giant as well, and they look like the exact goddamn same, so they can do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. They could write in a lot of things.
Exactly. They're just like, oh, look at this. Turns out Anderson and Orlock had a love baby who looks just like her, and we're going to call her Cassandra Jr.
Yeah, it's just as psychic.
Yeah, they could do something cheeky like that.
Half Soviet.
Yeah. But they also, one of the things they also did was the sort of prequel adventures of Cadet Anderson. So they've done that as well, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of tough too, because that's obviously that squeaky clean, like, gee whiz character. But with the lens of teen angst, I suppose.
Yeah, her story's really interesting. There's lots of fun moments where she goes up against famous villains like Judge Death. That's one of her main of the big villains in Judge Dredd. That is Judge Anderson's main bad guy. There's some crazy psychic stuff that goes on. She almost dies.
He's an intergalactic super fiend from another dimension.
Yeah.
Where all crime is committed by the living. Therefore, life is crime. And the sentence is death. Yeah.
It's so good.
They got tired of Dredd killing all their villains all the time. So they said, what happens if we had a guy he couldn't really kill right away?
The Dark Judges. So good. So it's a really interesting comic. Her character goes so many, like, intriguing and fun directions.
Yeah, it's a really neat take on the world, right? You know, I really love Dredd because he is a black and white character. You know, he is just this stark vision of truth and justice, and he grows and develops very little.
Yes.
Comparatively. Over the years, he's changed a lot. I guess you could say that. But to then take that world and use a character like Anderson to do all the stories you can't do is, to me, is a really interesting aspect of that world. Yeah.
And a fun thing that they did with the character of Judge Anderson is they put her in the 2012 film Dredd, where they changed her story up a little bit and basically made her the main character of a Judge Dredd movie.
Yeah, this movie isn't a sequel to the Sylvester Stallone one. I guess it is a reboot.
Exactly. In it, she is portrayed by actress Olivia Thirlby, alongside Carl Urban as Judge Dredd and Lena Headey as the drug lord Mama. Nick and I actually went and saw this movie twice in the theater in 3D when it came out.
First time on my birthday.
First time was on his birthday. It was such an amazing theater experience. I am kind of sad that it didn't do better, because I would love to see another story in this world that they kind of put together.
Yeah, it was a low-budget independent movie, you know, and it did not make a lot of money, unfortunately.
No. In it, there's a drug called slow-mo, where it slows down your perception of time, and they played with that in such a beautiful, like, artistic way, and plunked it in the middle of this ultra-violent, dark, gritty movie.
Slow-mo, blood and guts flying right at you, because this movie was actually filmed with special 3D cameras. This is at the time when they were still trying to make 3D movies be a 3D experience, not just taking a regular movie and slapping 3D effects on them. like, you know, most comic book movies. No, they shot it in 3D. It was called Dredd 3D when it first came out.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of gimmicky in that regard, but it's done really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So bullets come flying at you, blood comes flying at you. It's super slow-mo with really crazy slow music.
It's a very, like, visually appealing film, too.
Yeah, and they really play with the colors when people are on drugs.
They do.
Yeah. And it's already a really colorful movie.
Yeah, they do change her story a little bit from the comics, but I found that they did a good job in still capturing what I enjoy about her, which is that contrast she has with Dredd when they are together. That sort of dynamic of the two.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, in this movie, Dredd is very faithful to the comic book. He is very stern, very stark.
Karl Urban did an amazing job.
Did a fantastic job and kept his goddamn helmet on the whole goddamn movie.
Even when they weren't filming, because he refused to let paparazzi get a picture of him in the uniform without the helmet on.
Yeah.
Because he's actually a fan of the comics as well. So that's really cool.
Yeah, Dredd's never shown his face in the comics since the 70s. And the Stallone movie, they took his helmet off almost immediately just to be like, look at me, I'm Sylvester Stallone, which I get. But
also.
But yeah, and so he's this really rigid character, and she's this cadet. She's on her evaluation. You know, she has no confidence. She technically has failed. And he is her final mark, her final grade. Her
last chance to become a judge.
Exactly. So nice, strong contrast between the two characters.
Mm-hmm. I actually have a bit of a synopsis for the movie, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. We actually put it in last night to rewatch it, refresh all those good memories.
Yeah.
Generally have fun again.
Because it's fucking great.
So good. Mega City 1 is a vast, violent metropolis where felons rule the streets. The only laws lie with cops called judges who act as judge, jury, and executioner. Again. And Dredd is one of the city's most feared. One day, Dredd is partnered with Cassandra, a rookie with powerful psychic abilities. A report of a terrible crime sends Dredd and Cassandra to a dangerous area controlled by Mama, a drug lord who will stop at nothing to protect her empire. The two must fight their way to the top of a 200-story megablock against overwhelming odds to dispense justice.
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun.
So it's a very classic action movie.
Fight your way to the top and beat up the boss. Yeah,
it's just it's linear. It's a day in the life of Dredd. It's simple. This is not new to Dredd.
It's the worst day of her life, though.
But yeah, it's her getting thrown in the deep end.
It's all the deep end. That's a line from the movie.
It's a line from the movie. It's really good.
Yeah.
Karl Urban wrote it on a comic that I have.
Oh, you're right. I forgot you met him at a convention.
Yes.
Nice.
So good. So it's really interesting because it's just, this is a regular day for Dredd. And for Cassandra, this is learning. This is what she has been training to do and to become. And now she has to go into this fully locked down. So there's no way for anybody to get into this mega block. They don't have backup. They don't have extra bullets.
They are cut off. The building's on war mode. No one can get in. No one can get out. And bullets are flying and people are dying.
Yeah, and it's all like completely accidental. So they went to go investigate a murder, and it turns out that they stumbled into an entire drug syndicate. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what? But because of the nature of the world that they live in, judges don't often come to slum blocks. And Cassandra actually came from one of these blocks, so we get to see her throughout the movie having a bit of empathy for the bystanders within this building.
Yeah, they're not bad people, they're just in a bad situation.
Yeah, I think they said 93, except for the people who are part of the drug syndicate.
Yeah.
but I think they said it was like 93% unemployment rate or something in the
Yeah.
block. And it's like, these people are just having a horrible time. And it's made even worse by Mama, who's such a great villainess.
Oh, yeah.
She's so good. Lena Headey is just absolutely fabulous in this movie.
Yeah, they wanted to cast an older woman to be this kind of wise, kind of experienced crime lord, but she fought hard for the role and she got it, and she does an amazing job.
Such a good job.
Played Cersei in Game of Thrones. She can play a mean bitch.
She's apparently great at it.
Yep.
One of the things that I also really like about the way that they structured the movie is how Dredd is letting her kind of take the lead in this investigation, in this job. He's asking her what they should be doing next. He's getting her to make these choices, to make these calls. And at the very beginning of the movie, he asks her at one point before shit's about to go down for the first time if she's ready. And she does not look ready, and he tells her so. He's like, you don't look ready.
Because once the shit hits the fan in the movie where they realize, like, we're in over our head, she kind of looks to him like, okay, what do we do? Like, you're in control. And he's, no, you're in control. And she's just, wait, what? Like, yeah. This is clearly not a normal day.
Yes.
So maybe you should take the lead. And he's, no. You're in control here. And he's very, like, he's very blunt about it.
Yeah.
And she rises to that task, like, oh shit, he's not going to take it easy on me. Even though we're probably going to die if I'm in charge. He should really be in charge here. Yeah. But he's a stickler for the goddamn rules. And he says, hey, like, you're on evaluation. What do we do, rookie? As dozens of gang members are storming, the floors coming after them.
Yes. We also get to watch her do her first real execution.
Yeah.
Which is an incredible moment in the movie because it pays off really well later.
Yeah, she almost wants to arrest this guy, but in their world, attempted murder of a judge, the sentence is death.
Yes.
So Dredd looks at her and says, what are you waiting for, basically?
Yeah.
You have to kill him, even though he's been defeated already, I guess. He's bleeding to death, kind of in a way already. And
he's doing this because he has no other choice.
Yeah.
And she knows this because she can read his mind.
It's not sunshine and lollipops.
Yeah, it's like he has been forced to attack them, to fight them.
But that's also the rule.
Yeah.
There's no exception. That's the rule. You are the judge. This isn't going to court. You have to make the decision right then and there. And the crime and the sentence are black and white.
Yeah.
Can she follow through with doing her duty? Mm-hmm. Can she perform her duty?
And the actress does such a good job in this scene.
Absolutely.
You can tell that she knows she's supposed to do this, but you can see that part of Anderson's character that I love from the comics come in where it's like that gray area is seeping in, and you can tell that she doesn't want to do this, but she's like, this is the rule. Yeah, there are no courts. You do not get a trial. This is it.
Yep. I don't care what your excuse is.
Like, no excuses.
Yeah.
And later on, she ends up kind of tricking her way into an apartment because Mama has ordered no one who lives within the block to help them, otherwise they could die. Mm. But using her mind reading abilities, she realizes the name of the person inside and tricks them into letting her in by asking for them by name. And it turns out to be the wife of the man she had to execute.
And the father of their child.
And the father of their baby.
That's right.
And she is then brought face to face with the repercussions of her actions. This woman is helping them because she wants to keep her family safe. Because she thinks, if you're not on this floor, you're not going to run into my husband. And you're not going to kill him. And it's already happened.
That's right.
And, it's such a good, the payoff, the writing was so good for that. And it's just so many of these little pieces in an hour-and-a-half movie. The character growth for Anderson is incredible. It's so fascinating. Yeah,
just like the comics, Dredd rarely gets the character development. He's the protagonist, but he's not the main character. Judge Anderson in this movie is the main character. It's her character arc. It's her growth. It's her experience. And this is when she realizes just exactly how brutal this job can be. And never mind, I mean, there's subtext that maybe when she's about to execute him, he looks really scared, and maybe he doesn't want to be in that gang. Maybe he has no other choice, right?
Yeah.
So she would know that with her psychic power. So there's a little bit of that subtext going on too. So not only does she not want to kill this guy, she has to. And she meets his new widow, who helped save her life. And they got a kid.
Yeah.
Ah, shit.
Yep.
This sucks.
Yeah, and
Brutal.
Dredd was originally going to have them tie this woman up so that she wouldn't go and tell on them. And Anderson, essentially fought to allow her to continue to be not captured because of the baby. She's like, they have a baby. And she knew all of this by reading her mind. And so she's trying to protect this woman as well. And it's such an interesting moment because there is so much well-placed irony
that
scene.
She uses the law kind of against Dredd in that scene where she says, look, we don't know how long it's going to take for this woman to get back to this baby. So it would be essentially a bad decision, unlawful, to restrain this woman, and this child could be put in danger. And so he kind of begrudgingly agrees with her, like, grumble.
Yeah, grumble. And she does that a couple times in the movie where he's kind of teaching her to value the crimes. So it's like, well, we're going after somebody who has murdered people. So getting somebody who's done vagrancy, we should kind of just move past that. That's secondary.
They explain early in the movie that they have enough resources to deal with 6% of the daily crime, so they have to prioritize them. Mm-hmm. And so they literally do that as they're going up the floors.
Yeah. And later on, you actually see her also using this to fight for her ability to be lenient on people who she believes deserve leniency. So there's a character who has been tortured and forced to work for Mama. And they find him, and Anderson just lets him go. And
by all means, they should be executing this guy as well.
Yes.
And Dredd is not happy about this, and she puts her foot down and says, hey, this is my evaluation. It's my decision. I'm letting him go.
Yeah.
By this point, Anderson believes she's already failed her exam.
Yes.
Because there are a couple of instant fail parameters, and one of them is don't get disarmed, and she was disarmed, so she's an auto-fail, but she's still in control. Yes. Until the very end of the evaluation. Yeah.
It's nice seeing her confidence grow as well, because she does look so scared at the beginning of the movie. She looks very, taken aback, and, she's like, oh, it's adrenaline, it's fine, I'll figure it out. But you see her confidence growing. You see her starting to use her powers and find her confidence and find her skill and why it is that she will make a good judge.
Yeah, by the end of the movie, her and Dredd have been separated, and he doesn't come rescue her. She rescues herself using her abilities and her intuition. She is taking control of the situation. She is confident now. She has realized her own value.
Yes. And I remember when we were first kind of watching the movie in theaters, I was a little bit worried when she first gets kind of taken hostage by one of the drug dealers that they had captured. He brings her up to the penthouse, up to the 200th floor, and they're gonna keep her there and eventually kill her to make it look like a drug bust gone wrong. So no questions will be asked. But she manages to essentially talk her way into convincing this guy to try and shoot her with her own gun.
Which is booby-trapped,
and you need to have the DNA specifically coded to that gun in order to shoot it. And then she finds her way out of there. She gets away, and she ends up saving Dredd's life.
Yeah. Dredd is on death's door.
Dredd is very badly wounded.
Yeah, it's over for him. And she saves the day.
She shows up and shoots the guy, and it's so exciting to get to see a movie that doesn't fall into all of those traps that it could have easily fell into. Yeah, but their partnership, I think, really comes together at the end, the final taking of the penthouse scene where they get in the door and they're shooting and they're tapping each other on the shoulder and commuting through the sign language, and you see them moving together as this cohesive unit as they're taking out all these people. They're one guy's shooting another guy, and then a person pops out and Judge Anderson shoots him, and they just work at the end, and it's like a beautiful, like, almost dance.
Yeah,
that final scene.
She has trained for this moment, and now she's able to utilize her training. She has the ability. She has the confidence. It all comes together for her. And now, in this real sense, she's Dredd's equal at this moment. They are like a team. You know, it's not him dragging his rookie around, going, "Okay, rookie, what do we do?" You know, and this all takes place, you know, a couple hours of their life.
Hours, yeah.
You know, Dredd beats this confidence out of her, right? Yeah. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, and there was the touching moment right before they entered the door where he asks if she's ready, and she says yes, and he's like, "You look ready."
Yeah.
And so it pays off. It's a callback. It's an hour and a half movie, and they somehow fit in these perfect little callbacks, these beautiful payoffs. And she does look ready. Whereas the first time he asked her, she looked scared. And now she's like, "No, like, we're gonna do this. I'm ready to go."
Well,
it's just so nice, because at the end, like, it's almost like, okay, time for the world to just keep turning. And you get the sense that, like, this is every day for Dredd. And this is the beginning of every day for Anderson.
And even though she'll be able to handle it.
And she'll be able to handle it, because he prepared her correctly.
Yeah.
And the fact that there were a lot of times when she should have failed. But one of the teachers from the beginning of the movie, who had tasked Dredd with the evaluation of Anderson and who had believed in her capabilities, kind of asks Dredd, like, "Oh, like, did she pass?" And he says that she did, even though
she should have auto-failed.
She should have auto-failed according to his rules that he laid out at the beginning of the day, but he made an exception for her. And, like, you kind of, that's the one little bit of softness and little bit of bend that you see in Dredd. And, like, the whole movie, it's this one moment where he's like, "I'll break that rule for her."
He is the law. He is, like, unrelenting. He is unbending. And he looks at the situation and he makes, no pun intended, he makes his judgment call on her.
Yes.
You know, that's what he's supposed to do. And he knows that they would be better off with her. You know, she has proven herself. And yeah, like, it's weird to think that little moment is the only tenderness you see from him, right? Where he's just like, yeah, okay, the only bit of softness where he is willing to not just be black and white, where he is willing to be that gray area.
Yes.
You know, because, yeah, she's earned it. She deserves it.
Yes. And there's a fun moment, too, kind of backtracking a bit into the movie, where he's trying to interrogate this guy, and he's, like, beating the shit out of him. And she's like, she doesn't argue with the fact that he's beating a prisoner.
Yeah, no, that doesn't matter, though.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, torture him all you want, but I have a more effective way of doing it by reading this guy's minds.
She's like, he doesn't have to speak.
Yeah. I'm just going to violate all of his personal freedoms. I'm going to violate his mind. I'm going to mind read him. She
sure does.
Yeah, there's no consent there. Yeah, no. So there's no problem with torturing prisoners. That's just a part of the job. But I have a better way of doing it.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting scene. The kind of her mind reading, the way that it's shown of, like, her being in there, and she matches wits and mental strength with this captive, and he ends up pissing his pants because she fucked with him so hard.
He's the hardcore gangster, and you think, like, oh, can she handle his mind? And he goes on a rant about that, and yeah, by the end of it, he's the one literally pissing himself. Yeah. There's no fucking with Judge Anderson. Or Cadet Anderson at that point. But
whatever.
Semantics.
So yeah, it's such an interesting and fun movie. If you have an hour and 35 minutes, I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix.
Shit, it's probably on everything. Because it bombed at the box office, so they sold it to everybody. Got to recoup that money.
Yes.
It's probably on every platform right now other than Disney+.
Most likely. I would suggest to anybody listening to this, if you like violent action movies, check it out.
Yeah, it's a hard rated R. It really is. Yeah. That may have been part of its downfall, but it is what it is now. It exists.
Yeah, so I would suggest watching it because Anderson is great. Carl Urban does a fabulous job as Dredd. Perma-frown, like, the whole time.
Yep.
He's great. I think all of the actors did such a good job. in this movie and really like committed to this idea of what the movie was, to kind of focus on this more comic booky take on like a gritty, violent movie, which that commitment I think is hard to get from actors sometimes.
Yeah, especially like I said, in a hard rated R adult movie, right?
Yeah. So yeah, like Judge Anderson as a character is super fun. She's got lots of like moral grays, and she fucks. she's got, if you follow the comics, the movie has this really nice character arc for her, and if you follow the comics, I mean, it's that tenfold, because they go from being this fresh-faced, like, gee whiz, kind of like sidekick character, to this grizzled veteran who's too old for the Force now. I mean, it's a huge arc for this character. Yeah.
You know? And now we're going to recap every single story in chronological order. The next 10 fucking hours.
I can't even track that down, because unfortunately she is not like a super well-known character as far as research went. Like,
outside of 2080 isn't a hugely popular comic to begin with. Mm-hmm. You know, but she is a very big part of the Judge Dredd universe.
Yes.
But outside of that, in mainstream culture, probably a little bit more obscure.
Yeah.
You know?
I actually got to cosplay as her a couple times. I had one guy, when I was just out in our town for like Halloween, dressed as her.
Going to the bar.
I had one guy run across a parking lot to come and ask me if I was Judge Anderson, and he got super excited. Nobody else recognized me for the entire rest of the night, but that one dude being super, super overly excited about it and taking a picture made it all worthwhile. I spent hours on this costume. A bunch of people I wore it to a comic convention. More people recognized me there, obviously wearing it around town.
It's the same problem, though. You're at a comic convention, there's people who like comic books. A lot of people are like, who the hell are you dressed up as? And a little bit more obscure.
A little bit more obscure, but she's super interesting. The Dredd movie is really accessible, which is great. That'll give people a little bit more of an introduction to her character.
For an hour and a half, you can find out exactly who this awesome character is.
Yeah.
So I want to hear your fucking excuses about not fucking doing it. It's your fucking homework. Eat your supper. Maybe you'll get dessert.
Maybe dessert. But yeah, she's such a cool, confident, interesting character. And I really enjoyed getting to read her comics. I would have never known who she was without Nick hoarding comics. And I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah.
Because I love her. I loved reading her story, and she's one of my favorite comic book female characters.
It's kind of sad to say this, but she's kind of unique in that regard of female comic book characters, where she has this long-term, somewhat realistic storyline where it's very serious. It's all about character growth. The writers were very dedicated to this character, and you know, she's not, I don't want to knock any other like female characters like say Wonder Woman, where they just kind of reboot and change the character as they need to and see fit.
Yeah.
You know, it is kind of an epic story of this character. And you don't see that with a lot of male characters either, but you really don't see it with a lot of female characters.
Yeah.
Where it's this long-term character arc that is extremely well done. And not, what's what I'm looking for? Not exploitative at all, in a sense.
Yeah.
We joked about her having sex, and it's not done in a smutty way. It's done in a realistic way, like, shocker, women want to have sex.
Yeah. Surprise!
You know, it's not cheesecakey and pin-up-y. You know, she's not running out there in a black leather spandex costume and nobody else is. They're all wearing black leather spandex.
They're all wearing leather spandex.
Right? And she's wearing the regular attire. And yes, obviously they play to her femininity. Yeah, obviously they do that. I mean, but it's done in a way to differentiate her as a character, not to titillate boys who are like, oh, wow, she's so hot. Even though she's drawn to be an attractive character.
Yes.
But just the fact that they let her age, they let her get older.
Yeah.
Right? You know, that happened with a couple of female judge characters, you know, like Judge Hershey as well. You know, Judge Hershey becomes, sidebar here, Judge Hershey becomes the chief judge of the Justice Department in Mega City 1.
Judge Hershey's also awesome.
Yeah, Judge Hershey's also awesome because she's almost like a female version of Dredd, and they get along like peas in a pod. Yeah. Because they're both fascists. Yeah, so Anderson's character, it's quite unique for comics, you know, especially because it's been so long since the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And it's still
you
going.
get to watch her entire life.
Yeah, they don't do a comic of her every year, but, you know, she's had this long-running story arc that is really quite rewarding. And so is Dredd, mind you. I mean, a lot of characters have. But like I said, Dredd gets very little character development. Like the way a lot of characters, like Batman rarely changes, right? The people around Batman change. And that's the same way with Dredd. Dredd rarely changes.
Yeah.
But with Anderson, that's kind of the most rewarding part of the series, is that she's changed so much and that she's so subversive of their ideals.
Yes.
Right? You know, she believes in truth and justice and law and order, but not their version of it. Yeah. But she operates within it.
Yeah, and as Fonda and I have talked about many times, is you don't always get stories this rewarding from female characters. And I think that is another reason why she resonated so much with me, is that her story is so rewarding. Getting to watch a story where the writers of the comics and the people who did the movie avoid these pitfalls that are so easy to go into with female characters. It's easy to fall back on things like sexual assault and like storylines like that, and they just were like, nope, she's just a judge, this is her life, she obviously deals with violence and stuff, but it's like they didn't go to these things where like, oh, she's a powerful female character because she was assaulted in her past. It's like, no, she just is powerful.
Yeah, and kind of what's unique about the movie is there's no sexual tension at all between her and Dredd in the movie.
None at all.
Deliberately. Whereas in the Sylvester Stallone movie, they take Judge Hershey and that's his romantic interest. Whereas in the comics, they never had any kind of romantic interest either. Like, neither one of them was interested in that in any way, shape, or form. And so it's kind of unique to see that too, where she just gets to be a strong female character.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, and like in the comics, she gets to choose when she's sexy.
Yeah.
Because she as a character wants it, not because the gaze is forcing her to be sexy.
Exactly.
And it's such a rewarding character. She's so less known that I hope that this podcast leads a couple more people to picking up some of the Judge Anderson comics, reading, and watching the movie, because I would love a second one.
Yeah, give them your fucking money.
Give them your money.
Jesus Christ. $2 billion for a fucking Avengers movie? And this movie can't make $50 million? Fuck you. It's a good movie.
It's such a good movie.
Don't steal it. Fucking watch it, buy it, do not steal it.
Vote with your dollar.
Yeah, vote with your dollar.
So, Nick, is there anything that, like, media-wise you're excited about? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I actually make a webcomic called Life the Necropolis. It's actually very heavily influenced by Judge Dredd. You can check it out on social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, Reddit. I think that's it. There's probably more. I put it on all over the goddamn place. You can check my website out at lifethen.com. LIFETHEN.com. The whole thing's up there. You can read the whole thing for free. Yeah, so if you're interested in Judge Dredd or just science fiction, adventure comics in general, I would definitely check that out.
Yeah.
You should check it out anyways, just so I get rich and famous. I may or may not be working on a print edition you can buy, so if that happens, you should definitely give me your money as well.
Yeah.
Do not vote with your wallet. Just give me your money. I'm voting for you. Give me your money. As for what I'm excited about right now, I'm excited about finishing my cheap Walmart Alien movie puzzle. It's 500 pieces, and most of which are black, because they did a really shitty job printing it, and so most of the detail is obscured. So it's mostly just one big black blob, and it's really hard, and I can't wait to be done that. God damn it.
Especially considering that I got the Hercules poster one, and it was so easy, and it was so fast.
Fuck, you finished that thing before I finished the outer frame of mine. It's 500 pieces, and they're big, chunky pieces. Like a child could do this. Not if all the pieces are black. Fuck, so I'm excited about that.
It was a great anniversary.
Yeah, it was just our anniversary. We decided to do puzzles for anniversary, and I picked a stupid one, and Alison, who makes a lot of puzzles, knew it was going to be stupid, but I was like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm excited about Battletech. I'm excited about my Aliens board game. Excited about Necromunda. I'm excited about a lot of things, but most importantly, I'm excited about that stupid puzzle. Finishing it to prove I can do it. Alison's gonna finish her Critical Role puzzle. That's way more pieces.
1,000 pieces.
Yeah, and she's gonna finish that damn thing before I even get close to finishing this thing. So
possibly.
Yeah. God damn it.
You can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram at wenchbenchpod. And if you want to reach out, you can send us an email at wenchbenchpod@gmail.com. All the art for the Wench Bench was designed by the wonderful Tessa Joyce Riecken. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at werefile. Thanks for listening, and talk to you soon.
I won't, though.
Bye!
Goodbye. I'm fucking up your notes, eh?
It's all good.
That's right. I gotta add something in here.
Yeah.
We're all over the fucking place with this one.
It's technically going down my notes.
Excellent.
So it's fine.